everybody. Welcome to the Fenton Perspective here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com and also over at Michael Vara's WCET.com, Late Night in the Midlands Radio, and also at American Alert Guardians Network out of Texas with Jerry, Dean, and Brett. Now, let me see here. I'm trying to grab my guest. I'm going to add him to the call. You guys, I'll tell you in just a moment the crazy that's been going on with my computer. You guys wouldn't even freaking believe it. About 10 minutes before the show started, I decided to hit an update button, and the next thing I knew, everything went south on me. So I've been sitting here for over half an hour fighting my computer to get it started, and I blew up a monitor. And then beyond the monitor, I had to go find another monitor in the kitchen where I keep all my spare equipment's in the kitchen of all places. So there you go. Okay, 3874-3373. Okay, there we go. All right, let's get my guest on here. I'm only going to do a quick rant, and then we're going to continue onward with my guest this evening. So there we go. Hello there. Do I have Jason?
You have Jason. How are you?
I'm great. And you are part of which group are you part of, Jason?
I am with Constitutional Counties United and Americans in Action.
Wow.
And yes.
Wonderful. I was just telling the audience, if you don't mind, if you can indulge me for 5 minutes since we're so late with the show starting today. But it's okay because, people at Revolution Radio, they're ready for their constitutional rights to get known, and they're a great group of people, and they probably knew that something horrible happened. And let me tell you what happened, folks. I sat down about a quarter to the time the show starts, 15 minutes before, and I'm sitting here dinking around, and a bunch of pop-up windows happened and said, you need to reboot this, do this, update that, right? So I'm like, okay, so I don't know why I did it. I never do that a half hour, anything close to a half hour before the show, folks, I never do that. I don't know why I did it. I wasn't thinking. I haven't had enough sleep. That's probably the real issue. So I hit the reboot button. The next thing I know, something weird is going on, and it's like spinning and spinning. And right now, even after, and I'll tell you what's spinning, it's my connector to the internet. The little icon down in the bottom tray in my Windows computer is still got the spinning thing on it, but I'm connected finally, and I don't know what is happening. So I don't know if it's the program that messed up the internet or the internet messed up the program, but I am so lucky to be connected to the internet because something weird has happened to that program, and it's Windows Defender. I don't know if you guys know about that. And then Windows Explorer crashed, and then the internet connection crashed, and everything crashed on me when I started to reboot. So I'm going along, and I'm barely limping, and I finally, about 2 minutes before the show's going to start, everything's kind of coming together, and it's looking like it might work, and my monitor literally stops working. Just completely blows up. All I've got is lines all over the thing. It's just up and down lines. It's a mess. And I've got and you guys are going to hate me for this because I know it's an indulgence. But for Christmas 2 years ago, I haven't bought myself anything for 10 years at all. I mean, I'm driving a 20-year-old car that's all dented and my computers are super old. And I haven't bought anything for myself for years. So for Christmas in 2018, I bought myself a 38-inch curved monitor. And the thing just died on me. And I'm so upset. Anyhow, in my kitchen, underneath in the back, stored away, are a bunch of little monitors I use for the conferences for the tech guys. So I'm now doing this whole show on a 14-inch little monitor. And I can't even barely do it. So that's what happened, guys, and I'm so sorry. And we got a new server today, and I discovered something. Now, you guys remember last week, I'm sitting here going, I can't record the show. I don't know what's happening. I finally figured out what the problem is. Everybody kept saying, oh, it's in the three bubbles. It's there. And I'm going, it's not there. I'm telling you, it's not there. I discovered something today. When I dial out and call people with my Skype calling, Skype doesn't show up as being able to record because it doesn't recognize it as another Skype account. I just figured that out with the help of AMAD. He was the one that, because the minute AMAD came on today and helped me with this, the Skype recording automatically started and the three bubbles popped up and I could see record the call. And I'm like, oh, this is so bizarre. Because remember last week with Judy Mikovits, I could not record it and Judy on her cell phone ended up recording the show for me. So that's what happened. So I learned something new. I hope you guys did too. I didn't know that Skype did that. Now, there's maybe a setting in Skype I can click to override that. I'll have to play around with it. But now that I know what the issue is, it's a good day in Hollywood, as they say. I'm happy. That's that. Okay. And quickly, before we get to our guests this evening, we actually have two guests this evening. It's going to be really cool. I just wanted to let you guys know that UFOCon 2021 is upon us. It'll be happening March 5th, 6th, and 7th. I just got the tickets up there for you guys to buy, so if you want to, they're ready and available. That's UFOCon March 5th, 6th, and 7th. It's all online. It's going to be pretty extraordinary, I got to tell you. I'm really excited about it, and I hope you guys can make it. It's 2.5 days of speakers you've never heard of, but trust me, you're going to be so happy you've never heard of them. It's that kind of conference. Hope you guys love it. It's UFOCon2021.com. Check it out. Okay, so to my guests this evening now, Jason, go ahead and tell everybody your name, who you're working with, what you're doing, and then after a few minutes, we'll get over to Christopher. How's that sound?
That sounds wonderful. My name is Jason Schaefer. I'm working with Constitutional Counties United and Americans in Action. I work as an assistant of counsel along with the co-founder of Constitutional Counties United, Christopher Hartman, and Americans in Action founder, Christo Hartman. And our whole mission here is to help return our republic to freedom, and one county at a time. And we have been lied to, and we've been robbed of our unalienable rights that the Constitution protects, and it's our mission to two things. One, educate the people of what those rights are and how to preserve them, and two, help them get into an action so that we can reborn our nation one county at a time so we can live freely and, most importantly, breathe freely.
Wow. Okay. Now, I discovered you guys in Yuba City at the Free and Brave event that they're doing. By the way, are you guys going to be at the next Free and Brave event? Do you have any events coming up? Let's talk about those right at the beginning of the show so people, and we'll remind them later too, so people get an idea of what you guys are up to right now as far as meeting up with people.
Absolutely. I'll pass that promo on to Christo Hartman here, and he'll tell you about our upcoming events. And here you go. Here's Christo Hart.
Okay, great.
Hi, Lorian.
Hi, Christo.
In regards to the event, I'm doing really good. Yourself?
Oh, hey. I should never have gotten out of bed today. I went to bed for 3 hours, got up about 4, and then started puttering, and then I hit the reset button here, and that was a mistake. Someone didn't want you guys on my show today. I'm telling you.
Yeah, you're just purifying some stuff, and it's all going to end well. You'll see.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So, Jason sounds wonderful. So, well, first of all, is Jason going to come back on and talk a little more, or do you guys want to go back and forth? Or
Jason, we're going to go back and forth. Jason is here. He'll remain here. We'll go back and forth. So if anybody has any questions, they can ask each and every one of us, whichever. But let me tell you about the couple events coming up.
Yes,
Number
please
one,
do.
We have a huge event at City on the Hill Church in Phoenix, Oregon. And that's this Saturday, February 27th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we have quite a rundown of guests. It's either going to be live in person and or live Zoom. In person, we have Senator Linthicum, who's a constitutional senator. They are more rare these days, but
God,
boy,
yes.
he is just awesome, and he'll be here in person as well. And then we have the other co-founder of Constitutional Counties, John Moslich. He'll be here in person as well. Then we have a bar attorney who's constitutionally minded. That's sort of like an allopathic doctor that is alternative minded. And they have the best of both worlds. And boy, he's strong. And he'll be talking about home rule, which we would like to discuss a little bit later on the show today. Because it's very important that all of our patriots, all people know about home rule. And not every county is home rule, but I'll explain that a little bit later.
Yes, please.
So we have,
yes.
Lenka Kalama is going to be there. Dr. Judy Mikovits, Dr. Carrie Madej. We have Dr. Henry Ely. And Ely, oh my God, this guy's a scientist and naturopath. He is full of information. And then we have Josh Del Sol, which most people know him about the smart meters and how to handle that situation, and also the detrimental situation with 5G and how that affects a body pre-vaccine, and how that affects a body if somebody chooses to get a vaccine. And it's not very pretty, but it's information that we need to know.
Okay.
After that, on the March 5th, we have another event at the Church of Glad Tidings with Pastor Dave Bryan in Yuba City, California, about 40 minutes from Nuisance. And then we have every first Friday of the month, he's going to have this event, and we're going to be talking about different situations and how to get in divine right action and how to become active, and that it's essential for each individual to realize that the old days of hiring an attorney and they doing all the work for you, hiring a doctor and they do all the work for you, hiring this and that and they do all the work for you, not any longer.
Right.
Because of this situation and what has happened, you have to realize that each and every person is responsible for everything they do, everything they say, everything they be. And it's up to them to become active if they want to save this free nation that is currently being dissolved every day with various new laws and statutes and what have you. You have to get active and do everything you can to educate the people that don't know and to be around people that share your point of view and what you realize that is happening. And in that, become active in communication, education, and dealing with your commissioners of your counties, your sheriffs of your counties, and dealing with the legislature of your state. It's extremely important that all these officials hear from each and every person. So instead of doing one lawsuit, which I want to say this to you, why I mentioned that,
right.
Lawsuits and recalls, they don't go through, and the reason they don't go through is because our bar courts have been infiltrated by anything you want to call socialist, communist, or what have you, and they denounce anything that is true and really valid lawsuit or recall, and they say no, does not apply. And that's the courts, that's the judges and the prosecutor, AG. They really have infiltrated across the nation all this, and we have to deal with this. And so there's other things that each person can do other than the lawsuit. You're wasting your money on that. It has to be something like an affidavit and or a coalition, and signing and writing your senators, your reps, your House of Reps, and your legislation and your governor. Just write them. So instead of doing one lawsuit where it has 100 people signed on, that's only one lawsuit.
Right.
And as opposed to each and every of those 100 people do 5 letters, that's 500 letters. What do you think will cause the most stir? The 500 letters, absolutely. Because they start seeing that the majority of the people know what's going on, do not consent, and will not consent. And if you want to be reelected, you better do our bidding, because it's no longer where the people should fear the government should fear the people. Because by the Constitution, and I'm talking the original one, we all know that there's 2 corporations and 1 original, 1776 I call that. In the original Constitution, it states you have the right to pursue happiness and freedom And if you do not, if somebody tries to stop you, that is a felony, and they need to be either arrested or stopped with a cease and desist by your sheriff. Which, speaking of the sheriff, oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Our sheriff is the last line of defense. If you don't have a sheriff that's working to uphold his oath to protect you from all the crimes that are happening from various government agencies like OSHA.
Oh, hey, Christo.
Like
Christo, guess what? My top of the hour break is happening. I wasn't sure if it was going to. So you just hang in there, mute your phone, and we'll be right back, folks. Welcome back, everyone, to the Fenton Perspective here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I am so happy you guys are with me here today. I am so sorry again about all the crazy that went on today. But you know what I'm worried about is I'm worried about my monitor. I hate to say it. I'm being selfish and I'm being self-centered and I'm totally freaked out about my poor monitor blowing up. I don't know what to do. But you know what? We'll just have to deal with it. That's the way it goes. You know, it's my life. And you know, we're replayed over at Michael Vara's WCET radio out of Columbus, South Carolina. And it's the Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. And we're also, now I'm just looking here, trying to find Jerry Dean. They said they changed the name of the network, and I'm trying to figure out how that's all playing out. But as far as I'm concerned, it's Americans Alert Guardians, and I'm pretty sure they're keeping that name. I think they shortened it, but we'll know next week. I'll figure it out. Let's see if they got that. Oh my God, this is crazy. Oh my God. Okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. American Alert Guardians with Jerry Dean and Brett. So we're replayed over there as well. Very excited about that. And who knows, pretty soon I'll be like Dave Scott. I'll have a whole list of affiliates going on here. And I want to thank Revolution Radio again for always allowing me to do whatever I need to do to get the truth out. And they've been wonderful. God, it's going on 10 years now. And I'm so excited for them. They got a new server today. I'm on a new server. I'm so excited. This is so cool. And hopefully the archives are coming back, everybody. This is really good news, so I'm happy about that. And one last time before we get to our guests this evening who have been so patient with me. They don't understand. They probably think this is normal. As you guys all know, this never happens to me. I've been doing this 10 years, and I've never either, something goes drastically wrong, we have no power, and which has happened, I think, once in 10 years, or, pretty much that's it. I'm here at 5 o'clock 5 o'clock Pacific every Monday. And unless I'm out of town. And, this just never happens to me. So I'm beginning to wonder, and I don't do that often. I don't sit here and say, oh, it's my guest's fault. They're too hot for the network to handle. But I'm going to say one other quick thing here before we go on. I hope you guys realize that the VPNs and the backbone got throttled down to 0 between February 6th and February 13th. And that is a huge issue. Those of you out there who know what I'm talking about, you better look it up. There are several people out there on YouTube that were running their VPN servers, and they were going through the usual port. I think it's 1994, if I remember correctly, or 443. All the VPNs were getting throttled to 0. 0 upload speed. 0. And if you guys know what I'm talking about, it was a test. They did it for a few days. They did it right before the Super Bowl. They just literally, anybody who wasn't playing the ISP game, and they could track everything you freaking did, they throttled you to nothing. You had no internet access. So wake up out there. If it isn't, these people I've got here on the show today fighting for our freedom, you guys better wake up, because the internet's not going to be easy to access if you're not a game player with these guys, these evil people. Anyhow, so UFOCon's coming up, UFOCon2021.com. Check that out. And also, we're going to talk more about what these guys are up to later in the show. Again, just to remind you, and if you're anywhere on the West Coast like me, you need to get in your car and you need to drive to these events and you need to participate. I do it whenever I can, and you need to start doing it too. And besides that, you need to wake up and start following their suggestions about what you need to do to make changes in this world right now, because honestly, folks, it is way beyond the 12th hour. We're hitting the evil zone. We're hitting the hell zone right now. So wake up. Okay, back to my guest. Christo, are you still there?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, okay, so you were telling us all about, I'm sorry?
Jason is also here.
Wonderful, that's great. Now, are you guys on speakerphone? Because you're sounding very faint right now.
Yes, we are. Do you want me to take it off?
Yes, please take it off speakerphone, because the problem with that is you get too far away and the sound gets very muffled.
Gotcha.
Yeah, great. Are you there?
Yeah. Is that better?
Oh, much, much better. Yes, now you don't sound like you're 25 feet away from me.
Okay, good.
Okay, excellent. And it's good audio, by the way. It records well. So, as we were saying right before the break hit, you were giving people suggestions on what they could do, and you were talking about the sheriff right before we got cut off there. So, about what the sheriffs need to do.
Okay, so the sheriff, the commissioners, all the senators, the House of Reps, the judges, the officials, the governor, they're not used to doing what they're supposed to do, meaning they are used to dictating, they are used to voting on measures and bills and ordinances that affect your life without even letting you know what they're voting on. They have been dealing in that job, that is elected job, and they take an oath that they need to do the bidding of the people. What's really wonderful about all this happening, Lorian, is that people are waking up and they have realization and have cognated on that, oh, wait a minute, they were elected to do our bidding, not elected to do what they want to do. And so that's what Trump was trying to do with Congress. If you remember,
Yes.
he put a bill out that actually took away all of the luxuries of being a congressman, a congresswoman, and wanted to even the plane out. And that means that they have to pay taxes. They have to pay insurances. No longer will it all be paid for by the people. And so they tried to he tried to even that out. Now, that's why another reason why he wasn't very popular in Congress. And so, in any event, we have to live today what we want our world to be tomorrow. And what that spells out to be is that we have to realize what the Constitution is. You know, Lauren, I ask people, right, just in talking with them for 5 minutes, I go, well, do you know what the Fourth Amendment is? When's the last time you read the Constitution? They don't even know. They don't have a book. They haven't studied it. They don't realize. So people don't realize their rights. If you
Absolutely.
don't realize your rights, how are you going to stand up for them? And we'll lose them, and they won't even know they lost something because they never knew they had them. So
Yeah.
we have to do due diligence. We have to become active in our own education. We have to become active in dealing with the sheriffs and the commissioners. I'm going to just stay with the sheriffs and commissioners for now because
Sure.
that's part of our constitutional counties united. And what that really means is taking back our state and our country one county at a time. And this is, I'm going to spell out to you guys what ideal scene should be. The existing thing, as I said, is the commissioners operate and you don't even know what they're doing. The sheriff does his thing and usually does mostly administration and search and rescue and that type of thing. Of course, he keeps things pretty good in order, but a lot of sheriffs have forgotten their oath. They don't even know that they took an oath to protect the people.
Right.
A lot of them have forgot. Some of them know, but they are afraid to do it because they're afraid of losing their funding against the tyranny that's going on in all of our democratic states. And so what you have to do is you have to get in communication with your sheriff. You have to begin to call him. You have to ask him for a meeting. You have to, and believe me, you request a meeting by your sheriff, by law, he has to accommodate you.
Really?
If you have a sheriff, that's correct. He is there, and he knows this. This is part of his bylaws and in his oath. He has to respond to his constituents. If he doesn't do that, you have every reason to recall him. And I would not ever suggesting to do that. I love our sheriffs. I work with sheriffs across, Jason and all of us here work with sheriffs across the nation. And so we have learned so much in the last 6 months, diving deeper into what our relationship would be.
Right.
Like in our county here in Jackson County, Oregon, we have taken 5 meetings in the last 2 months with our sheriff. Each meeting was an hour and a half more in person.
And are you bringing now? Can I ask, Christo? Are you bringing a group of people with you when you meet with him, or are you doing this individually, or just with Jason? How's it playing out?
I never want to overwhelm him. So I say to him, listen, we can have a meeting and you can talk to a lot of business owners because they are being hurt. Your constituents are being hurt with the lockdown and the mask wearing. And so I can bring you 50, 60 business owners, or do you want to have a more intimate meeting where maybe we can get something done? And I'll have 5 or 6 people there, the leaders of our county. And they always select 5 or 6 so they're not overwhelmed.
Yes.
And so that's what we do. We only have between 5 and 6 people there.
That's fine. And that's a good start. I think that's a good plan, actually. I find things work better if you don't feel threatened, you know.
Not only that, but it's a known fact in people that have management skills and putting people together. When you have a lot of people, actually it's over 8 people. When you have over 8 people, things get a little bit foggy. They get a little bit, everybody has their own point of view, this and that. It goes back and forth. Nothing gets done. 8 people or less, but 8 people, that's that octagon, right?
Yeah.
8 people is a powerful unit. And it seems, and it would be good if it was 4 women and 4 men, it seems that with that, it's very, very powerful, and you get a lot of things done. Like constitutional counties have 8 people, 4 women and 4 men. Americans in Action, the same thing. And so that's why we're getting a lot done. And we're educating people and what have you. But back to the sheriff. So with the sheriff, we have these meetings, and we say, listen, Sheriff, we need you to know, or would you let us know, what you took an oath, right? Mm-hmm. What did it say in the oath? He'll say it or we'll say it. Okay, are you ready to uphold your oath? And they usually say, what do you have in mind? Well, what we have in mind is we have the governors using OSHA to actually commit crimes in each county. And I'm sure you know this, Sheriff, but you have hundreds of businesses, bankruptcy, high rate of suicide, foreclosures. Right. Your county is being destroyed with the myth that there's a pandemic, with the myth that there's an emergency. And you realize that there isn't, but we need to do something. And so what we want you to do is exercise your enforcing authority. Oh, here's one comment. The sheriff in each county, an elected sheriff in each county, has the authority to arrest anyone in their county. And then when it comes to various things like COVID and this and that, to arrest anyone in their state, including the governor, the AG, the prosecutor, any judge. He has that authority. When I say that to sheriffs, they sometimes fall to the floor. They go, what? I don't have that authority. The health authority is over me. Who told you that, Sheriff? Well, the governor's office. Well, the governor's office just lied to you and committed a felony. No, that is not accurate. You are the last enforcing authority in every state, in every county. And we show him the law of that. We show him that in writing.
Now, Christo, is there is that law per state, how the sheriff reacts to their county and the state as a whole? Like, you're saying they can arrest the governor. Law. What? I'm sorry?
Federal law.
It's a federal law. Okay. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yep. And so holding him true to that, say, okay, now let's say your sheriff gets educated here and he realizes that's true. A lot of them do realize it. Don't get me wrong. We're working with so many wonderful constitutional sheriffs like Sheriff Songer in Washington State, Sheriff Lamb in Arizona, Sheriff Rogers, who happens to be retired now, but he's an amazing and educates other sheriffs. Before I forget, I just want to say there is an event on the 27th also in Texas with Sheriff Mack, Richard Mack.
Oh, I love him. He's great.
Well, we work with him, and he's just amazing. We support each other because we're doing the same thing and working with sheriffs. And he's putting together, I think about 50 sheriffs have signed up, and he's educating them to let them know and show them the law that they are the enforcing authority, and if they do not do something right now to push back against the crimes from OSHA, the crimes from the governor's office, the lockdowns, and the mandatory mask wearing, and soon to be the mandatory vaccine, if he does not cease and desist, have them cease and desist that in his county, he's going to lose his county, and hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of people will die.
Wow.
And so with that, we have to say to him, we are behind you. We support you. You never want to go to the sheriff in anger. You never want to go and try to intimidate him. That's not going to get the job done. We have a saying here. In Americans in Action and Constitutional Counties United, no matter what we say, what we do, we come with the realization and the awareness that we're coming from love. And what I mean by love is the love is the answer to all things. And if you come with love, with the intention of education and then community and then support with each and every person in all of their different capacities, then you're going to win. It's going to be successful. If you go in anger or hatred or violence, you're going to destroy. And so we always say that, and we always start our meetings with a prayer. And so that's just something that you guys can feel about. But it really works. Love is the answer.
Love is the key.
Tough love.
Yep, yeah, and there is tough love. You bet there is. Wow, this is so amazing. I got to ask you something. I know this is kind of going off topic for right now in our current situation, but were you in communication with the sheriff that was at the standoff up in the county up by the Indian reservation, Canocti? Do you remember that where the FBI shot the gentleman? Couple years ago, the family that has the farm, they were doing the burning, and they were just like the Bundys. Do you remember this whole incident?
I do remember, but let me say this to you. Not until a year ago did Constitutional Counties United exist. Did
you're kidding.
Exist? No, I'm not kidding. We just started this because we saw something that wasn't being taken care of. And now we are taking responsibility for it and educating the sheriffs, educating the people, putting on events where you and I met, Glad Tidings. And so that just started. So I am in the boat, and I think most of our people are here, in the boat of most American people where we weren't paying attention to what was going on with our government. We kind of knew that there was something wrong and something majorly wrong, but we couldn't put our finger on it. Now we know.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Oh,
and so it's
Christo,
not too late. Yep.
Yeah, it's not too late. And I got to tell you, and I want to thank you for stepping up and doing what you're doing. All the people that were at Yuba City, I mean, I'm telling you, everybody's stepping up their game and they're doing something. I'm doing something. I'm working with 3 different groups of people. I'm trying to put on conferences around this. I mean, I'm doing the best I can. But I've been at this for a long time. And the reason I feel so kind of helpless, and I'm so happy you came along, is because I really had no focus until I started listening to what you're doing and what Pastor Dave is doing and what Judy Mikovits is doing. And you guys really helped me. And I want to thank you for that, because I wasn't quite sure where I fit in this situation, but I realized something super, 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 super important that you've all got to hear right now. It's this simple. Just get out of bed, wake up, go out and talk to other people about what's going on, connect with people like Christo, go to Pastor Dave's church if you're in Northern California, listen to all of the conferences and tell your family to listen with you. Whatever it takes, go to the sheriff like Christo's saying right now. All you have to do is get up and do something. Even if it's a little tiny thing, you could change one person's mind about what's going on out there and turn them into a freedom fighter as well. And that's super important, isn't it, Chris? I mean, it's Christopher.
It is so
it's just
important.
yeah, because that's the bottom line.
It's so important. It is a major message that we give out all the time. And as well, Lori, and you're doing such beautiful work being on Revolution Radio that inspires thousands of people across the nation. And so this is just awesome. So you're so right with that. Now, here's something that is really important. You must realize that CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, Yahoo, Gmail, if you have a Gmail account and a Yahoo account and MSN, get off of it.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you? Do you realize, people, that Gmail sells your information, spies on you with each email, and when there's sensitive material, if you should mention certain words, they're going to put you on a list for later. So you need to realize and understand why be on these modalities when you are feeding and letting them know what you're up to. Get off of it and get an encrypted email. The one that most people are using is protonmail.com. Proton, Proton mail.com. It's an encrypted email, and guess what? It's free. I mean, you can upgrade into other things at $40 a month or something, which is nothing, but it's free, and it takes you 5 minutes to do. ProtonMail.com, and end your Gmail, your Yahoo, and everything else. In addition to that, what are you doing on Facebook still?
Yeah.
Again, it's the enemy.
It
Twitter,
is.
It's the enemy. Get off of it and go to places like this. Now, get a pen. And Lauren, you probably already know about all this, but I'm just asking your people, write this down. Go to Rumble, RUMBLE. That's the new YouTube. Go to Band Video, BANNED, Band Video. Go to BitChute, BITCUCHUTE. And there's so many more.
Oh, don't forget Brighteon with our buddy Mike Adams, Brighteon.
Brighteon, exactly.
Yeah.
So with all that, educate yourself. Listen to what's going on. Be on top of it. Know what the latest thing is. And oh my God, the latest thing here in Oregon is the person acting as governor is trying to get rid of our guns. And they were voting on a bill today to make it a felony to have your concealed weapon, because there's a lot of people that have a lot of concealed weapon permits now, have your concealed weapon, that if you drive within 5 miles of an airport, 5 miles of a city hall, 5 miles of a building that you don't even know if it's a government building,
right,
and you're within 5 miles of that and you have your weapon, you will be arrested with a felony. That's what they're trying to pass. That is so anti-constitutional. It's so against the Second Amendment. People are up in arms with it. It better not pass. And here's one note for everybody to know. Any law that's created from legislation, any mandate, any order that is repugnant to the Constitution, you have an obligation not to follow that. You have an obligation to tell them, we do not consent. That is against our Constitution. You just committed a felony, and we're going to have our sheriff come and arrest you. Or we're going to have our sheriff, you better not come into our county trying to have that go. And this is what I'm talking about, taking responsibility. I call it divine right action. And
Correct.
So you got to know what's going on. You got to find out and check in with your governor's office, with your legislation, with your senators. We're blessed to have a senator here, Senator Dennis Lithicum, and he's going to be talking live to us and telling us all the updates and what he feels that we should do and what he is doing. And he's just an amazing individual.
Now, is he he's back in Washington, D.C., or is this a state senator that we're talking about?
He happens to be a state senator. And just so for your audience, there's such a thing as a federal senator and a state senator. And there's probably around 30, 40, 50, depending on the state of state senators, and 60, sometimes between 2 and 10 senators or federal senators that actually goes back and forth to Washington, D.C. and the Dark House.
Correct.
And so
the Dark House. Love it, Cristo. That's perfect. Okay.
Yeah, it may become white again. We just got to do a little whitewashing.
Oh
Okay,
my
sir.
God, we do. We got. I don't know what we're going to do, but anyhow, continue. I'm sorry to interrupt. You're
That's
on a
okay.
great
That's
terror
okay.
here, as they say.
All right. So with the sheriff, now you get him on your side. You get him to realize, and you get the sheriff to begin to work with the commissioners. Now, sometimes the commissioners will come forth because there's a couple counties here in Oregon that have put out resolutions that they are now a constitutional county, and the sheriff wasn't even on board. But he's going to follow suit if he wants to be popular. And so with that, you start working. Now, each week, your commissioners in each county will have a meeting that this is by law.
They have to. That's correct.
They have to allow the people to talk.
That's right.
Now, you go on there and you talk to them and you say, listen, you need to make our county constitutional so that OSHA and anything in the government does not have any teeth when it comes to making us wear masks, making us lock down, that they'll take the teeth right out of those government agencies by being a constitutional county. And this is something not for every county because it's called home rule, which Jason is going to explain it in a few moments. And home rule, like in Oregon, there are 9 counties that have home rule out of 37, right?
Okay.
Jackson County happens to be one, so we're excited about that. We are urging our commissioners to create, through resolution, the home rule. Now, they're not going to create it, but they're going to announce it. We're going to apply it and live it. And what that means is any coming from the governor's office, any legislation, any law, any mandate does not have an effect on your county legally. And so what that means is that home rule, just like it sounds, you get in your home, your county, to make your own constitution. And I probably shouldn't say that because it's not really a constitution. It's just your own laws and your own regulations and what the county will abide by. As long as it is not, it's in alignment with your state constitution and, of course, the original 1776 Constitution. It must be in alignment and nothing repugnant to it. Now, if there's something in your state constitution that is repugnant to the Constitution, that is illegal, it's not lawful, and you don't have to worry if one of your regulations goes against that because the law is behind you. And when I say law, there's a difference between law, lawful, and legal. There's a difference between lawyer and attorney. So what we have here is that, and I must go into this now because it has to deal with making the home rule, is that in your court system, it's called the bar court system. This is not truly a government agency. They're actually existing in the United States and have been since 1871 illegally, unlawfully. The bar stands for British Accreditation Registry. And we're still associated with the central banks in England and the Queen.
And I understand that. Yeah, I've known this for a very long time, but what are we going to, we can't, for some stupid reason, we've not been able to oust this organization or overseen entity to our court system. Have you got a solution for us?
But I'm going to explain something to you. It's very important.
Okay.
So now, the court system is a corporation, just like they're using a corporation as the United States. It's a corporation. It can actually be found on Dun and Bradstreet. If you don't believe me, look it up.
Yep, that's true.
It's a corporation, privately owned corporation for profit. The oath of the attorney, he takes an oath to serve the court, not the person, not his client. They're all about the money. That's why these attorneys charge $500 to $1,000 an hour and retainers of tens of thousands of dollars because of the fact they're all about the money. Get as much money as you can and bring it to the court. And they actually get now, I didn't vet this wholly yet, but we heard from many sources that the judge actually reaps 18% of every fine that goes through his court personally.
Wow.
And so that seems to be a conflict of interest. Now, don't forget, I said I didn't vet this all the way, but this is what I heard from several reliable sources. So you do your own research on that.
Right. And it may not be the same in every court, too. I mean, I can probably, It varies.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And so with all that, that's the attorney. You know, here's something, Laurie, a little trivia. Attorney defined means to twist, and that's exactly what they do. They twist the laws and the ordinances in order to fine you. And it's all totally against the American people. It really is. As opposed to lawyer. Lawyer, another word for lawyer, is a person that is expert on the Constitution, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, and can apply that with being able to assist an individual to go to court. Now, there's the difference. The bar attorney, right, not serving you, but he takes care of all the paperwork and everything else, and you just go, what do I do now? What do I do this? And they usually lead you astray, believe me. Not
Correct.
all the time.
Yes. Oh, trust me, I've been there.
Bar attorneys now. They're from my friends, and they're constitutionally minded. So a bar attorney that's constitutionally minded is totally cool.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So with all that, we have that the lawyer, another word for that is assistance of counsel. Do you know bar attorneys never mentioned in the Constitution? Do you know assistance of counsel is mentioned in the Constitution in the Sixth Amendment?
Yep.
Everybody has the right of the assistance of counsel. Now, that assistance of counsel should be expert at making, if you ever have to go to court, making that court session what is known as a de jure court or Article III court. What that means is, if you go in with any kind of thing, charge against you, and you stays as a bar court, what will happen is that you will lose because they just twist everything, and it's a very corrupted situation. However, if you know what you're doing and go in and change that court to a common law court, once you do that, you cannot lose, because everything that you stand up for is the truth and it's lawful under the Constitution. Anything they're trying to do to you, unless you hurt somebody or destroyed property, that's the only two things. If you didn't do those two things, then you are in the right and you will win if you make it Article 3. Now, I can point to somebody that is genius at this, and his name is David Straight.
Oh, yes.
The rumor is David Straight has never lost in court. And he saved so many people in dire straits just by knowing what to do. And he says the same thing. You never go in there to fight. You always go in there to educate.
That's correct.
And that's what you want to do with the judge. You don't want to go in there fighting him. You want to go in there educating him. And all you're doing is telling him the truth of what is. And he knows what it is already.
That's right.
Certain things, he may even dismiss the charge, believe me. So that's just it right there. And we can go into that into detail at another time, but that's the idea. And you need to do your own research. Straight is spelled Straight. And so David Straight is a real good source for that.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect. Well, now, what are you guys doing just in your county alone that people can model from and do in theirs as an individual, besides the
I'm going to pass this
sheriffs?
I'm going to pass this on to Jason because he's been active in this. We all have, but I want to give him a shot here of explaining that question. Jason, did you hear that question?
Perfect.
Hello.
Hi, Jason. Yeah, I just asked Christo if what can we do, or what are you guys doing up in your county right now, besides having meetings with the sheriff, that my listeners could kind of model and do wherever they're living in the United States?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, and I'll just piggyback onto what Christo said, the basic premise of what we do here at Constitution Counties United and Americans in Action is what the power innate in each and every person in our country is. And that is the supreme law of the land is our 1776 Constitution. So when the sheriff takes an oath, I know Krista was speaking a little bit about the sheriff, the oath that the sheriff is taking is to that 1776 Constitution. So I had a conversation with our sheriff here, and he was requesting, so tell me the laws, tell me, the statutes, this and that. And so I responded to him in this. What he needed to know, and this is what everybody here needs to know, is that statute law and legalities, all of that court system, I know Crystal mentioned it, has been infiltrated by a very dark force. You can call it what you want, socialism, CCP, whatever you want to call it. But it's been infiltrated for about over a couple hundred years, and they have infiltrated it and indoctrinated all those who are involved with it, including your sheriff, to be the law. But that is inaccurate. The basis of Constitution is if somebody is harmed, meaning, what does that mean to be harmed? It means your unalienable rights, which are protected within the Constitution, such as your right to life, liberty, your pursuit of happiness as defined in our Bill of Rights. If anything is harmed, if an individual is harmed, well, guess what? That is a crime. Anything that is in the gray area or statute this or statute that, it's all for the corporation so they can profit. All the sheriff needs to know is what he vowed to, because that's his enforcement power, which is to the 1776 Constitution. So if a business is closed down, right, they are now deprived of their ability to have life. If somebody, and I looked at this up, if life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, when you look up the word life, you go scientifically, there are many different definitions. There's lawful definition, scientific definition, even biblical definition.
Correct.
Life, per science, is defined as oxygen, right? When you look in the Bible, I believe it's Genesis 2, chapter 7, or chapter 7, Genesis 2, chapter 7, when the breath of life was breathed into man, life was birthed. What is he talking about? That's talking about oxygen. When you look up the law, it talks about every living, breathing being needs to have their functionalities to be working properly to have life, and what they need is oxygen. So if you go back to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, you can replace the word life with oxygen. And it says if anybody is deprived of oxygen, they are therefore been committed a crime. This is science. This is law. This is the Bible. Isn't it interesting how they all come together and meet in truth, right? So now one other thing on that. So mandates, executive orders, as many of your listeners know, and I'm sure you do, are not law. The governor, or the person acting as governor, has no lawful or even, interestingly enough, legal authority to make law. Law has to go through legislation. In other words, it takes over a year and a half. It's written up as a bill. It's passed on to the Senate, then to the House. They vote. It goes back and forth, so on and so forth. Then it's passed on to the governor. The governor can veto it or make changes. Then it goes back into legislation before it even hits the ground as a law. Then once the bill goes into law, it takes a year before it even becomes active. So our forefathers in the Constitution 1776, and then which is the foundation, supreme law of our country, right? And every other state constitution has to mirror that. It can never be repugnant to that. That means that there's no law that can be made which is not gone through legislation. Even on the federal level, the president isn't one to make law. We don't have a dictatorship. We don't have a tyrannical government. It has to go through legislation. Well, yeah,
we do now, but go ahead.
We do. But here's the brilliance of that. The forefathers, in the foreseeing of their drafting the Constitution, foresaw a day like we are living today, and the Constitution is just a mere insurance policy. It is we, the people, that are the last defense. And when you speak to your sheriff,
he vowed to uphold the 1776 Constitution. He doesn't need statute. He doesn't need to talk to his attorneys. He doesn't need any of that. All that he needs to know is that somebody's unalienable rights were harmed by an unlawful mandate, an executive order, or anything of that nature implemented by a tyrannical governor. Now he has to say, hold on, that's a violation of our constitutional rights. My constituent was harmed. I am now going to put a stop to that. And we, the people, are the ones that need to uphold your God-given unalienable rights by protecting it. And the way you protect it is, yes, you communicate to the sheriff. You also write letters to your senators. And you stay open. If you are a business owner, and this is what we've been doing in our county as well, not only have we been speaking to our sheriffs, but we've been speaking to our commissioners. We've been educating our commissioners on the law, and we've been educating our commissioners about the Constitution, believe it or not. It's as Christopher was saying just a minute ago, we've all been asleep in our country, and everybody's been working business as usual, and the commissioners, the government, they've just been doing what they want to do and getting a paycheck, and people have been stopping them. But now, because things have been unprecedented and people are getting hurt physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, they're waking up. And now all of a sudden, the game is changing, and we're going back to 1776. So it's up to each and every one of us to take the action. So with business owners, we've had them write affidavits. We've had them write to the commissioners. We've also given them no trespassing signs that they can put up on the window to tell OSHA to back off. I've personally wrote a letter to the head of the OSHA authority here in Oregon, stating all the laws that he's been violating on a local level, on a state level, and on a federal level.
Have you gotten a response from them?
No, he ran from the hills. When I wrote that letter, here's an interesting thing. We had other partners in our group write letters to this gentleman, Michael Woods, who's probably part of the CCP. He's the administrator authority here in the state of Oregon regarding OSHA. We had a bunch of people write letters to him, and he was in dialogue with them. I personally wrote him a letter stating the laws that he was violating both on state and federal levels. He never replied to me. He's probably having his quote-unquote attorneys look over it. But here's the thing. They don't have a leg to stand on because, as we know, this is extortion to destroy our country using this magic virus as a way to extort and destroy people's livelihoods. So because people have been ignorant, it's like the bully gets to beat down the people, and until the people realize it and put a stop to it, the bully's going to keep on doing what they're doing. So we've gone to the business owners, and through statute law as well as constitutional law, we helped create signs that say no trespassing to OSHA or any other government official that wants to shut down my business. They need to come back to the business with a warrant, which needs to be a wet signature by a judge. We brought this no trespassing to the sheriff in our county, and he said he will support that. In other words, if any of these OSHA officials do go to our businesses and do not abide by that no trespassing sign, he will personally or send one of his deputies to go down to the businesses and escort those OSHA officials away from the business and either cite them for trespassing or arrest them. So that's a huge thing. That's just because of the knowledge of the law and the statute and the business owners waking up. In addition to that, we've spoken to our commissioners, and here in Jackson County, and this is what your listeners need to be aware of, and this is what Crystal wanted me to speak on. Here in Jackson County in the state of Oregon is what's called a home rule state, which means in the state of Oregon there are home rule counties permitted per our constitution, state constitution. Not every county is a home rule county, but within the state of Oregon, there are 9 counties that are home rule counties. And what that does, and Crystal mentioned it a little bit earlier on in the call here, is that enables the constituents in conjunction with their commissioners to implement certain ordinances, laws, regulations, rules that are specifically in matters to their local county. So, for example, here in our state constitution, it says in Article 6, Clause 2, it reads, "The Constitution is the supreme law of the land." That's the article. That's the federal constitution. But in our state constitution, I'm looking for it. It says it offers that we, the people. Just so I'm looking at my notes. Jackson County is one of 9 counties in Oregon that has the home rule charter. And the charter is basically the constitution of a home rule county. And regulations and rules regarding, and it says county home rules would permit county action without specific state authorization in matters of local concern. In addition,
Perfect.
Isn't it fantastic? Local legislation would prevail over conflicting state law to the extent that it addressed purely local concerns, and would make county legislation supreme over state legislation in areas of county concern if the county has adopted a charter. And Jackson County has adopted a charter and is a home rule county. So with that, we, the people, in conjunction with our commissioners, have the lawful, legal, and innate power to literally create our own localized government and disregard any and all of the draconian measures being forcefully imposed upon us by the person acting as governor, and specifically in relation to COVID-19. In other words, we can open up our county lawfully.
Right.
And there are many counties around the nation that are doing that. Now, the people who are on the call today need to research in their state and then in their county if their county is a home rule. If it is not, they still have, based on the fact that in our First Amendment right, we have the right to redress our government for grievances. What that means is you can pick up the phone, you can write an email, you can go to your commissioners and meeting and say, hey, this is not okay what's happening. We need to speak up, and we need to stop the overreach from corrupt governor officials and any other legislation laws that are violating our right to make a living, violating our right to breathe freely, violating our right for our children to play in the park without being taught how to fear one another or hate one another, and to breathe oxygen freely. Now, here's another thing too. There's statute here in ORS, which is something else that I wrote to OSHA. 2 things. One, OSHA, the impetus of OSHA, as well as OLCC, which is the Alcohol Control Commissioner here in Oregon, the impetus of that there's a virus floating around in these restaurants and 6 feet distancing and masks and so on and so forth will prevent the virus spreading, and closing down a mom and pop shop will prevent it, but keeping Walmart open is okay. The impetus of proving this is on OSHA. And they have to prove scientifically, with valid scientific proof, testing, that, oh, look, if we keep mom and pop shop open, the virus increases, but if we keep Walmart open, it doesn't. They have to prove that in these restaurants, that sitting outside, the virus won't get you, but if you sit inside, it will. They have to prove scientifically that all of the employees wearing a mask is going to prevent an airborne virus, but when they take off the mask and eat, somehow the virus misses them. So I tell people, no, it's okay, I'm not wearing a mask, because I just tell the virus I'm eating all the time. Because apparently the virus knows when I'm eating and when I'm not eating. In other words, the impetus and burden of proof is on OSHA to prove that this virus is contagious the way they are making the narrative say that it is.
Right.
If they do not, 2 things are happening. Because we do have science, valid science. Even the CDC has come out and said that masks don't work. But we have expert scientists, expert doctors from around the world, internationally, and Dr. Tenpenny, Dr. Mikovits, these doctors. They prove how the virus isn't contagious in that way. They have the valid evidence and the scientific proof. So it's up to OSHA to challenge those and debunk them in an open forum. Why? Because it's up to the American people to make the decision for themselves, because we have what's called the right to first refusal, the right to refuse treatment. And if the
That's
medical
right.
mask is a treatment, we need to have what's called disclosed consent. In other words, we just need to know all the information. And if we're only getting one side of the information because the people that are putting it out are making billions upon billions of dollars for doing it, well, then we're not getting in disclosed consent, or informed consent, actually it's called. And if we're not getting informed consent, then we're being lied to. Now, this country in the not the 1776, it's all contractual. It's contractual agreements, the statutes, the corporation, it's all contractual. So when you do contract law, the most important thing is to disclose everything. If you do not disclose it, then you're in violation of the law. So if they say to you, you must wear a mask, well, they didn't disclose to you the good, the bad, and the ugly of the mask. They just said you have to wear a mask. And if a person wears a mask, or if a person closes their business due to OSHA overreach or a false narrative, or in Oregon it's called coercion, which is a statute law, which is a violation if they coerce somebody to do it. If they go into agreement with that and basically acquiesce to the command, well, they just went into agreement with a contract unbeknownst to themselves, and now they've given jurisdiction over OSHA. They've given jurisdiction over the governor. They've given jurisdiction to a metropolitan police officer who works for the government, not the sheriff. The sheriff works for the people because he's an elected official. The
Correct.
Metropolitan, I love cops, I love sheriffs, don't get me wrong, but for the sake of an analogy, a metropolitan police officer is a mall cop on steroids.
Yeah, tell me about it.
He has to implement the ordinances, the rules, the statutes of the corporation, just like a mall cop has to implement the rules and the regulations of the mall. But he has no jurisdiction over the supreme law of the land, which is your 1776 Constitution. That is where the sheriff comes in. So if a business owner or even a individual decides to wear a mask, and they should be freely able to decide, not coerced into doing it, and then said they're violating a law or be enforced on, because if they are, their law needs to be stated. What law are they being violation in? What crime are they committing? And if there is none, then the people who are committing the crime are OSHA. The people that are committing the crime are OLCC. The people who are committing the crime is the governor. And the people who are committing crime is any officer who arrests a person for wearing a mask because there's no law being broken. And if an officer does arrest somebody wearing a mask simply for that reason, well, not only did the officer break the law, but he also committed assault and battery and kidnapping and so on and so forth. And that individual officer can be held in private capacity and 100% liable for their actions. So
Wow.
the more people realize their rights, the more people realize that their rights come from God, and that's what the forefathers of our Constitution said: God, love, whatever you wish to call that innate spark within you that brought you to this call today, that know that there's something is wrong. That is up to you to protect that right, and the Constitution is specifically an insurance policy on paper to help us remind us what we have the responsibility to protect on our own. And one last thing on that, OSHA, there's a 1973.5 OSHA Act, which basically says that OSHA has the responsibility of employers and employees. They have no jurisdiction over the employer-merchant relationship. So if OSHA goes into a store and says, okay, you have to make a mask mandate for customers because it's a threat of the virus, well, two things. One, OSHA has to prove that scientifically. And two, they just violated their own OSHA Act because they have no authority of the customer-merchant relationship.
That's right.
So they can't dictate to a store what kind of policies it can do. And the third thing on that, no store can create an in-house policy that is what? Repugnant to the Constitution. What does that mean? Causes an individual harm. any store, and I won't get into this too much, but any store that is open to the public is what's called a public accommodation. A
That's
public
right.
accommodation is, in a nutshell, a store, and there's a selection of them federally, but a grocery
And
store will use
Jason,
an example. Go ahead.
Jason, I hate to
Mhm.
do this to you, but if you could quickly give out how people can get a hold of you, because the show's ending right now. So if you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. I'm sorry I wasn't paying attention to the clock. So quickly,
I know
tell
there's so
everybody
much-
how they can help you.
So, you can get a hold of us at americansinaction.us. That website is constantly being under construction and being rebuilt, but there is a way to contact us there and learn about the event that's coming up on the 27th. You can also contact us at constitutionalcountiesunited.com, and that's another website. And then Awakening Truth Within at Proton Mail is a way to contact me as well, and I can answer more questions with that. So Awakening
Wonderful.
Truth Within at Proton, and just so everybody knows, I will not respond to any emails that are not from an encrypted account. So therefore, Proton, it must be either a Proton or other encrypted account, because encryption to encryption works, but specifically Proton will be the best.
Right. I completely get it. Yeah.
If they put in the subject matter, where they heard this and whatnot, then I'll know what the reference is.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, I just thought, the show usually ends at 56, so I'm wondering what's happening. We got a new server, so I'm not sure if the music's going to play or not. But thank you guys so much for being with us. I really appreciate it. And I'm sorry about the hiccup today. And I'll tell you what, I'll have you back on very, very soon. And when the show's over today, I'm going to give you guys a call and we'll have a quick chat and we'll get you rebooked on another show, okay?
That sounds wonderful. And Krista had to jump into a urgent meeting that happened just now when we were on. So I will sign off on behalf of Crystal and
That's great.
Americans in Action.
I'll call you right back. And you guys, everybody out there, thanks for putting up with me today. We'll see you next